call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger, Councilmember Wagner,
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee,
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker, Councilmember Shoemaker,
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay,
Here.
and Councilmember Corsi.
Here. Thank you. Councilmember Boger did let me know that he would be gone from this meeting, but should be here for the regular council meeting. Are there any members of the public that would like to address council before we get started this evening? Okay, hopefully not your only opportunity. Moving on to new business. Finance, social media updates. Theo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to give you a little update on our past year with both our social media launch and our new website launch. So I just have a few statistics. Hopefully I won't bore you with them. Oh, sorry. So we started social media May of last year. There was already an existing Facebook page for the city, but it hadn't been in use for probably about 3 years. I think it was just a trial back in 2011. So we decided to take that over just so we at least have a little bit of a base to get started with. So last year we started with 286, and as of actually today we're up to over 1,100 Facebook likes. Now when we went into social media, we did both Facebook, we did Twitter, we upped our YouTube a little bit, and this year we're also starting Instagram. But for this presentation, I'm just going to focus mostly on Facebook because it has the highest reach and the better statistics as far as being able to show you guys what's been going on. For Facebook, there was, when we first started, there was a couple different ways we were trying to figure out how to gauge successfulness. One was going to be likes, how many users or citizens or people we can get to like our page. But as we started off, we quickly figured out that just because somebody goes to your page doesn't mean they're going to like it. So it wasn't really a good gauge to measure success. So Facebook has the opportunity to measure what's called reaches, and reaches are how many, when a post goes onto somebody's feed, Facebook feed. So if it just goes onto the people that you like, you only get a few, but if they just share it or like it, and then it cascades from there. So that's how we decided to gauge our successful posts so that we could try and refine them and see which things interest the most people. And you can see this is over the year, and it's gradually gotten bigger, and we've had a couple of spikes, and I'll show you what that spike was right there in the middle, which reached to over 14,000 reaches. The post types, we have them broken down into 4 major ones. We have links, which is just basically a website link from our page to the Facebook site. We have a status update where we just say what's going on and not any other information. Then we'll have videos, embedded videos, or we have a Facebook post with a photo, and it also might be a status update, but also a photo. And these numbers are a little bit low because it's gone for the whole year, and we had about a 6 to 8 month build-up process. So here it's kind of low, but on average, the percentages haven't changed. As far as links, videos, our most successful ones are photos and videos. Any posts we do with that are very successful. And right now we're at about 2 to 3 times what they have in there. So for instance, links, we're at about 1,500 reaches, and photos, we get into the thousands. Our most successful posts have been public road maintenance, hazards, and job postings. That large spike we had as far as reaches was this particular one when we had the snow in Washougal and we were broadcasting important information. So that particular post reached over 14,000 people. And that's likes, shares, anybody that reacted to it. So it was pretty successful. And then our next one is job postings. Job postings are very successful. I've never seen anything as far as any post like that reach as many people as the job postings have. And then when you incorporate police on top of that, because they're our third biggest bump, it goes even farther. So that job posting reached 9,000 feeds. And that's it for the Facebook social media stuff. If you have any questions, just shout out. The next one are the statistics for our new website that we launched last year as of August 1st. And the way that Google measures our views is there's what's called unique page views is what I'll focus on, and that means different addresses for the people connected with. So if you have a phone, that's one address. If you have a home computer, that's another address. So you can have people with multiple devices connected, but they'll all count as something different. If it's the same person at the same house that connects, then that's one. So for this last year, we've had over almost 175,000 page views, and that's across the entire year.
My pad, I use it at home, but then if I go to the airport and it signs in through a different IP address, does
That would be an additional page view, yeah. Goes by IP. So. And then this is also a breakout of the top 10 sites that are most visited. And these statistics are actually very much more detailed than we had previously in our previous website. We weren't able to drill down this much. And we also didn't have as good to see how long people stayed on different sites. So we have really good statistics as far as this new website goes. Every page has what it needs to be able to define what people are actually doing on those sites.
What's a bounce?
A bounce. A bounce is when they go to that page but then hit back immediately, like they didn't mean to go. And then an exit just means that they got to the first page, or they got to the home page, for instance, or whatever page they were going to, and that had the information that they needed, so they left. And then these are the statistics as far as some of our top events. So for downloads, we've had over 30,000 downloads of our PDFs that we attach, and that can be from, most commonly it's going to be like the workshop agendas and things like that, but it's also job postings or anything else. We made a big push when we went live with this website to make everything online PDF fillable or PDF, so it's been well received. And then this is the list of our outbound links, and a lot of people have bookmarked eGov, for instance. That's where they pay or check their water bill and stuff, but there's still, over the year, about 7,500 people that have gone from our website directly to there, and the municipal code, and then even some that go to the Visit Washougal site. And then as far as the mail links go, we can also measure every time somebody clicks, like for instance, all of your council member pages have a mail button where they can click and email you. We also have that for every staff member. And then different departments have specific ones like utility billing and building inspection. So this measures how many times that each click has been or mailed to that department, and these were the top 3 that citizens are using. And then over on the right here we have our top site search terms. Jobs and employment and human resources are commonly the number 1, no matter what kind of business you're in. Backflow, water, and leak adjustments are the other ones. And then this is a versus comparison. This is on our old system versus what we did in this new system. Now, since we can get much more granular in the new system, I just kept it to the home page because there's not really anything else to compare to beyond that. So just in that last year-to-year comparison, we've almost doubled our traffic to the main home page. So that's been a really good increase. And also our exit percentage is down, which just means that people are staying longer, finding more information, and going other places instead of just leaving right away. And that's it. Questions?
Any plans to change anything or do anything?
We are going to be adding some new things to the website. We're going to be adding a reservation system, where we can reserve like parks and community center, hopefully. So that's something in the future plans. And we're expanding our projects. We have a city projects page that we're trying to expand and get some more detail on currently. And then for social media, we've recently got into the Instagram, but we want to focus a little bit more on Twitter and get that built up a lot more. We're starting to see a big pickup in that. So.
What's Instagram?
Instagram is where we've primarily been using it on Visit Washougal, but basically you take a picture instead of posting, your status or whatever. You take a picture and you just say, "This is Washougal," or "I'm down at the docks," or whatever. But it's kind of it's smaller than even Twitter, really.
You need that for your morning walks.
That's it, huh?
Post those out there.
Yep.
So, Theo, how can we double all this again?
The best thing we can do is we just got to keep up on the communication. I mean, we've done pretty good over this past year as far as getting more email out and broadcasting, but there's definitely room to improve there. We really need to increase probably our weekly or monthly communication as far as email goes. I think that'd make a big difference because this expansion is primarily from social media and at the events. Whenever we have events, we've been, broadcasting on flyers on where we are, but we need to find other ways to let people know.
Is there a link to Quita?
On the website? Yeah, we have several links to places in Washougal. We have numerous videos about the Quita video about economic development and.
Do you get much play from that?
It didn't show up on the link, but so I don't really think so. I didn't notice it on the top 10 as far as our external links.
Well, council members and the mayor weren't in the top 10 either, so we kind of worry about it.
That's true. Maybe we should start, do a special campaign.
That's okay.
Paul?
Are we doing an adequate job with hashtags, even on Facebook?
Well, actually, it's interesting they mention that because when we first started out, it was pretty much the mainstream that you should include hashtags on Facebook's posts, and that's kind of turned around in the last probably 3 to 6 months, I think. So we have started adding them. Probably this past month, I think we started including hashtags in because you can search on them in Facebook, just not a lot of people use them. So I think in an effort to be consistent, we're just going to start using them
Reason I
across all of our
mention it is
posts.
I was at a training the past week, and social media, there was a big push and they were very insistent that you really needed to hashtag everything.
Yeah, with Facebook it's a little bit different because if you do a search in Facebook, it scans everything. So even if you have a hashtag, it's a little bit extra. I mean, if somebody wants to search for the hashtag, but it would still find it if you search for Washougal or whatever, it would still find it. But yeah, we want to maintain consistency, so we're going to be adding tags to both Facebook and the Twitter.
Right.
Twitter stuff.
Any other questions for
People
Theo?
love pictures.
People with pictures, yes.
Nice going.
Thank you.
Thanks, Theo.
Thank you.
Finance, Public Works, Cemetery Code changes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This evening, staff has recommendations for a few edits inside of the Cemetery Code, Chapter 2.44. The first is in 050 in regards to funds received for sale of lots and burials, setting aside 10% for a capital fund specifically for the cemetery to add that in. And in the next section in 060 to strike the 50% and insert the 25% for funds received from the sale of lots to be deposited in the Perpetual Care Trust Fund. We've historically been doing that, just cleaning that up and making that reflective inside of the cemetery code is the intent with those recommendations. And there's a few more proposed edits inside of 090, specifically around providing a vase. It's become much more cumbersome for us to handle these products, as well as the specifications, not only ordering them, but keeping them for inventory at the cemetery. The staff recommendation is to strike the vase, both under the marker setting fees and the monument base set fee, and we would still do the setting, which would be $12 for both services, either a marker setting or a monument base. In striking the vase, that puts the responsibility either on the funeral home, the granite company, or the applicant. So we still provide that service, we just don't physically hand the vase off. They provide that to us. So that's the real highlight of the proposed code revisions for cemetery for 2.44.
Paul?
These are two separate funds, capital funds, trust funds,
Capital separate from the perpetual care,
but they're two separate funds.
right?
Okay, thank you.
Perpetual care is mandated by state law, is it not?
Right.
But we set the amount?
We set the amount locally. Jim can chime in if needed. We've had historically in the code, as you see, 50%, whereas we've been collecting at a 25% rate as far as perpetual care fund.
Basically, we get to determine the amount necessary to put into the fund and able to maintain it after it's full. So it's pretty vague on as the percentages, which is why we're able to set it ourselves. And the cemetery board recommended these changes, and that's what we've been doing. So basically, we're just cleaning the code up to match what we're actually currently doing.
Dave?
How long will it be before the interest on the principal will pay for perpetual care? And it won't be coming out of the general fund?
We can't use that fund by state law until it's full. So as long as we're still selling plots and niches and those types of things, we can't use that to maintain it.
How long do we expect to be paying, or to be selling plots?
I have no
Our inventory, depending on what the applicant is requesting, is like a 50 to 65 year horizon. We looked at that when property was coming up as far as acquisition in close proximity. So we have quite a bit of inventory as far as conventional buried as well as niche wall.
Well, now that we're using niche walls, that increases the capacity, so, because so many people are
Or
doing it,
cremains, or
choosing
however
that.
they'd like to acknowledge that individual. So there's quite a bit of capacity, I would say, into the long-term future for cemetery services and sales.
Is what we're charging, do we charge anything for maintenance, except for the 25% that goes to the perpetual care? How about for the current maintenance?
In perpetuity, not the fee for either sale of the lot or the burial. As far as them getting charged on an annual basis for maintenance, is that what you're alluding to?
Well, I'm just wondering if the fees that we're charging are high enough to cover what we're doing at this point.
Currently, no. The general fund is subsidizing, because we do track the O&M, the operation and maintenance of the cemetery, in a separate fund from the general fund.
Okay.
And we do a transfer every year, because the fees aren't, you never know how many you're going to sell in a year anyway for that purpose. But what we do collect does pay for the maintenance staff and whatnot to mow and do everything that we need to do out there, and then the general fund shores up any shortcomings.
How much is the general fund subsidizing it right now on an annual basis?
Around 100,000. And the budget, I don't know the budget number off the top of
And a
my
lot
head.
of that is in salaries for the crew, which does other things too.
We have a dedicated individual as of
Yeah.
this year, I believe.
Yeah, we've been redoing the allocation on that for where the labor is actually being consumed as far as the service division. So for that specific service division, either cemetery, parks, or facilities. So that's fairly accurate as far as the labor, time, and material spent in that service division.
Thank you.
So we're not increasing any fees. We're dropping by 50% the amount that we're dedicating to the perpetual care fund.
By 25%.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, by half, sorry.
yeah. And then we're taking 10% of that and putting it into a capital fund.
Correct, it's a capital line item within Fund 103. And we've been doing this the whole time, so it's not changing any current functions. It's
Okay.
just making sure the code matches what we're doing.
Okay.
What does the capital line item fund pay for?
Niche walls.
Future improvements. We've done the gazebo in the past. We've had some donations, other projects as far as benches, those types of things.
Okay.
Significant donations from previous cemetery board members, especially for niche walls and other capital
Irrigation.
improvements that have been
Irrigation
constructed in the
as well.
last 3 to 5 year horizon.
Thank you.
Of course.
Are niche walls a new thing, or a lot of people choosing to do that, or?
I'd have to look at the numbers to see how
Yeah.
that's trending. I know that the inventory is getting used up rather quickly for the niche walls. We added 2 within, I think that was 2 budget
2 years
cycles ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, kind of anecdotally, it is trending towards being a preferred option. That or conventional or cremains, as far as the cremate garden, scatter garden.
Other questions? Okay. That'll be back to us 2 weeks?
Yes, so we'll have a draft or we'll have an ordinance to make these changes in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Yep.
Okay, resolution of intention to assume Washougal Transportation Benefit District Number 1.
Yes.
Is that to assume or to resume?
Assume the powers and rights and functionality of the Transportation Benefit District Board. So in April of last year, as you're aware, created the Transportation Benefit District under the revised code 3673. In July, there was new state legislation, the second and gross substitute Senate Bill 5987, based on feedback. A lot of the full-service cities that reflect their city limits and have a transportation benefit district and two separate governing bodies. The city council is one governing body and the benefit district board of directors being a second governing body. The opportunity to be able to assume those rights and powers into one conveyance. So when you meet as a city council, you don't have to adjourn and then start a benefit district board meeting either on the front, middle, or back half of the agenda. So in working this with Administrator Scott, we thought it was important to bring this to your attention for an opportunity to be able to acknowledge that the governing body is already in attendance and you can conduct benefit district board of directors business as the city council without some of the shell games that we needed to do as far as notification and two separate governing bodies. So the recommendation is to have city council declare its intention to assume the rights, powers, and immunities, functions, and obligations of the TBD and set a public hearing on August 8th with those intentions.
To summarize, all we're doing, in effect, is eliminating the legal fiction that there's a difference between city council and the TBD board.
Right, I really think that was based on feedback to the state legislation as well. I mean, really, the intent of this is for efficiency in government.
Right.
Instead of holding several meetings and several, advertisements and adjournments and reconvening and starting meetings over. So I think it's for all the right reasons. Each benefit district is a little bit different. Some do offer at-large positions, whether you invited a port commissioner or
Right.
a school district board member to sit in on that transportation benefit district board of directors, but that's not the case here. The elected body for the city and the city council is the same as it is for the board of directors. So in that case, you do have the opportunity to declare that in your intentions to conduct business.
Thank you.
Dave?
Two questions. First one is there a significant savings in staff time by doing it this way?
So after the Transportation Benefit District was adopted in April of 2015, I think we've only held a couple of meetings. Otherwise, it's basically mute. So it hasn't been a large lift. As we potentially talk about transportation benefit districts and what that brings potentially financially, I think there could be some savings for staff time in the future in not having to set up separate meetings and tracking that specifically instead of one governing body as the city council. So up to date, I would say there hasn't been a lot of time and labor commitment in regards to the board of directors on the TBD side, but moving into the future there could be.
Okay, and is there any thought being given to having the members of the TBD elected separately from the council?
I have not put any thought to that. I could do some research as far as referencing RCW and separate election of TBD elected officials.
It is possible, though, right?
I'd need to research that to give you an accurate answer, but I think it is possible. But
I
again,
think my
that
concern with this, Trevor, it is very convenient. And the way it is right now, it adds emphasis to the TBD meetings, the issues. Otherwise, it kind of slides by on a council agenda. People don't notice it. But if it's a separate meeting, it catches people's attention. And that's my primary concern. That and the possibility of having other people besides the council elected to do this job. People who could, like the planning commission, specialize in the transportation area. And because, while the council is good at setting general policy, this seems to me to be a specialized area. So I'm not really enthusiastic about this.
Does this mean we no longer have to pay for the dual advertisements in the Columbian?
I don't think we pay for any of those because they're not legal, Rose, they're not legal notices. We just provide information that we'll be meeting is the only requirement we have.
If we're having a public hearing, we do advertise for those.
Public
sessions,
hearings.
and,
Yeah, so we can include it in the council agenda, and we don't have to run a separate advertisement,
For
which
public
costs
hearing.
us.
For public hearing, for
Just
routine
those times that we
meetings,
have public
there would be a
hearings.
cost
Yeah, oh, okay.
associated with advertising.
That's, $400 or $500 a year.
Any other questions on? Okay. Thank you, Trevor. Brings us back before we adjourn for any public comments. Seeing none? Pardon?
I said everybody's looking it up.
We discern the public pretty quick. I've got nothing for you at this time. Any items from council members? Okay, we will stand adjourned from this meeting and back at 7 o'clock for council meeting. Thank you.
Outstanding.